Hi, it's Lipstick Gal. Thanks so much for watching today. I've always told you that I love a smaller palette. And as I was going through my eyeshadow collection, the majority of my palettes have 12 shades or less. And then I discovered almost half of them have 6 shades or less. So today I'm ranking 26 small palettes, from least favorite to most favorite. I'm one of those people that gets so overwhelmed by too many options, I just get completely frozen with indecision. So I love a smaller palette. I also feel like there's less of a chance you're gonna have shades that are really close together and duplicates or, close enough that you're like, why do we have both of these in a smaller palette? I feel like they're gonna be more carefully put together and each shade will have its own purpose. Of course, you can use shades however you want, but that's the one thing that I love about a smaller eyeshadow palette. The other thing is when I have like almost no time, but I still want to pull a look together, pulling a smaller palette gives me the option of like, maybe I only use half of these, maybe I only use 2 or 3 shades, maybe I only use 1 shade, and that just like simplifies my life and makes my kind of squirrel brain just kind of slow down. It really kind of chills out my panic hamster. It's on the wheel running like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? All right, so I'm gonna start with the palette that I use the least and like the least. And I'm still going, why didn't I get rid of this during my declutter? And it's this. I wanted to love this palette so bad. This is the Glossier Monochromes. I have the shade Prairie, which is kind of like the olive one. Oh my goodness, my heart fell in love with this. 3 shades, all the same color, different finishes. I was like, yes, I wanted that. Now here's where I admit to you that I am super lazy. I don't want to have to use an eyeshadow primer if I don't have to. And here, if you wanted to stay all day and not crease, I don't have oily eyelids, but I needed to use an eyeshadow primer. Now, when I use an eyeshadow primer, it is a little harder to blend because I'm not a makeup professional, but it stayed all day. Now, I liked the way these blended best without a primer on my eye, but halfway through the day, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I was getting stuff stuck right in the crease. And by the end of the day, I had 2 very distinct areas on my eyelids, where there was shadow and where there wasn't. So I'll just tell you, I loved this, the look of it, the idea of it, the fact that you can take out the mirror, it's refillable, everything about this like made me super happy, except for the performance. I just recounted, there's not 26. There's 27. All right, so at number 26 is this palette. Now, I officially decluttered this during my declutter last fall, but I pulled it out. And here's why. I feel like, is it bad? No. Does it inspire me? Not really, except for this shade right here. You'll notice that all of these pans came with these little teeny tiny bumps on the top, and there's kind of like a wavy impression in the way the pan was pressed. You can see almost nothing here, like nothing is left. But this really soft duochrome shade is the reason that I love this. On my fair skin, sometimes deeper tones can be a little overwhelming. I liked how soft, how pretty, how almost not there this was, and so I couldn't let this shade go. I've kept this whole palette for this one shade. I feel like the rest of these shades are nice. They're super pretty. This bronze is nice. This one's really close to my skin tone, but it's this one right here that just pulls me in. So this is number 26. And it's because I just really couldn't let it go. Number 25, I think, is here because the first couple times I used it, I didn't have a terribly successful look. And I keep remembering that every time I see it in my drawer and I haven't reached for it. So I need to kind of like clean the slate, go again, maybe it'll get bumped up, but it's this. This is one of the cutie palettes from Nabla. This is the Metropolitan. It looks like this. These metallic shades down here on the bottom, they're so pretty. I mean, like this one right here is amazing. And I really do like this kind of, I don't know, burgundy-ish metallic. They're really fantastic. I like most things about this palette. I like the formula. I like the color story. I wish it was just a little thinner. She's a little chunky. I don't know that it has to be this chunky, but I like that there's a mirror in here. I like that you get decent sized pans, and that you get a really pretty variety of colors. You can use, you know, a small handful, you can incorporate them all together for a very interesting look. I think another reason that I don't reach for this is that this metallic here, if I don't use like a primer or a glitter glue, I end up with sparkle underneath my eye. It's a little more high maintenance than I like to be, so this one comes in at 25. At 24 is one I was sure was gonna be like farther up the list. It's this, it's the I Like to Mauve It from Essence. Now, I don't want you to think that because it's at this place in the ranking that it's not a good palette, because it is. It's a really beautiful palette. I like how affordable it is. I like that you're getting, you know, really beautiful, and they're pretty metallics. They're not too sparkly. I feel like even the mattes in here are nice. It's just, I tend not to reach for these cooler tones very regularly. That's why it is where it is at number 24. When I'm looking at it, I think the reason this one's at number 23 is because I don't use it very much. And it's not because it's not a great palette. This is the Rose Water palette from Elf. This is one of their bite-sized palettes. When these came out, so good. I would like to trade this for a matte. Like a matte in this shade with this matte here and the two metallics. But this is so pretty. Like, beautiful. I need to remind myself that I'm really having a moment with rosy eyeshadows, like I'm wearing kind of pinks today. I need to remember to pull this out because this is a beautiful, beautiful product at an affordable price. But I just find that I end up using these three shades here because this is kind of a dark with some sparkle in it. And I have problems keeping that where I want it and not getting sparkle kind of fall out as I'm blending in other places on my face. But this is a beautiful, beautiful palette. Number 22 on my list is this one from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Golden Goddess. And this was the first one I ever picked up. I feel like if I were to go to the Charlotte Tilbury counter at Nordstrom, like I did when I picked this one up, this was several years ago. I was still going for neutrals, kind of safe, easy eyeshadows, and that's why I picked this up. And I'm sure that if I were to go and have like the pick of everything, I don't know that I would come home with this. Is it bad? No. Is the formula good? Yeah, I think the formula is pretty. My favorite thing about this is this shade right here. This is the topper shade, and it has, even, you know, years later, it still has a really beautiful quality to it. I think the thing that is so remarkable about Charlotte Tilbury is that this formula looks really pretty on my 47-year-old eyes. Not everything is aged well with me. I've had this for a good 4 or 5 years now. And I'll tell you, I remember ones that I picked up around the same time, the metallics in there kind of settle into the creases or they accentuate like the crepiness on my lids. This formula is beautiful. I struggle with the price point, 4 shades for $53. That's what I paid for this. I don't know if the price has gone up, but if you like a small curated quad and you love a luxury palette, this is great. But I feel like there's other really great bite-sized eyeshadows that you don't have to pay $53 for. If you're looking for something that you know is gonna work every single time on mature eyelids that have some texture, this is fantastic. Number 21 is one that they don't even make anymore. What's this? This is the Mothership Sublime Bronze Ambition from Pat McGrath. I remember being head over heels when Pat McGrath turned out these little mini palettes. First of all, it was that they were smaller. Instead of getting 10 shades, you're getting 6 shades. I know she's come out with this size again, but there are no special shades in here. These are mattes, these are metallics. These don't have those transformational topper shades that are just like obscenely amazing. But I think the reason that I don't reach for this as much is that it tends to lean very warm. Of course, the Bronze Ambition, I think, really, you know, tells you that it is a warm palette. It's not a bad palette. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not the one that instantly I go to, that one. That's why it's at number 21. All right, so from here on to my next portion, these are the ones that I really enjoy. Now, it was really hard for me to stack these ones in the middle here because they're all really, really good. At number 20 is my least used palette from this brand, and it's the Wayne Goss Imperial Topaz. So this was the first palette that Wayne came out with, and you'll notice it's very similar in tone to the one from Pat McGrath. Wayne takes it a little bit darker because you have the black in here, but you've got kind of champagne shades, you have kind of warm terracotta-y shades in here, some golds. I like this shade, and I feel like this formula and I get along just a little bit better. I love this shade here. I have used this shade as highlight before Wayne came out with one. Look how gorgeous that is. Another thing that I love is that they're so buttery. This shade here is a satin, and this is the most beautiful one shadow look. It's this shade right here. I like this palette. I like it so much, and I really like Wayne's formula. Again, like, packaging A+. You have giant pans. I know that the smaller the pan size is, the more likely I am to get that dip in this center and wear out a shadow. Here I can, you know, stick something in the corner and rotate through corners and never get like that one gouge in the middle. I love that about this. This is a fabulous palette. It's at number 20. This palette size is the one that kind of really prompted this video for me, because I just purchased more of these. And it's the Viseart Petitfours. I have a love affair with the Viseart Petitfours. When they first debuted in fall of 2020, they had 4 and I picked up 2. And this month I picked up the other 2 I didn't purchase. And then I picked up their new spring release, or kind of like macaron inspired ones. Like, I'm kind of crazy. I'll admit it. I have more palettes in this size than anybody needs, but this one is at number 19. Now, I love this color story. I find like this kind of cranberry metallic shade to be so beautiful, super fantastic. I use these 2 here as one shadow looks, but this shade here was the one that kind of pulled me in. I was expecting to fall in love with this one a little bit more than I did. Is it bad? No. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. But it basically comes down to, are these your colors? And although I love the look of this kind of more cranberry jewel toned garnet shade in here, I don't reach for it as much as I expected, which is why it's at number 19. But I love this bite-sized, small, petite palette size so much. Love this. Number 18 is a drugstore gem. I love this so much. This is from Essence. It's the Taupe It Up palette. This is really reminiscent of another palette I have in my collection. And this is so affordable. So I feel like this palette here is best for people with fair, light, maybe light medium skin. I think once you're past a certain point, some of these darker shades here, woo, that storm is brewing outside. I feel like this shade here and this shade here might pull a little ashy on richer skin tones. That's why I would say this is better for people who are fair to light. But this really reminds me of one of my all-time favorite small palettes, one of the Petitfours, but this is so affordable. And if you, like me, love a really pretty metallic cool eyeshadow, come on, less than, what is it, $5 or $6? These are so affordable. This one's great. I've forgotten what number I am. I'm just gonna keep throwing numbers up right here for you. All right, so this is the next one. This is from Charlotte Tilbury. It's the only other Charlotte quad I have. And this one here is the Bella Sophia. As you can see, I have used and abused this shade here. I love this topper shade. This shade is so pretty. I have done one shadow looks with this. I also like the one in here. In the pan, it looks a little bit more red, but it tends to be just a little bit more bronzy. Oh, they're so fantastic. Everything in here has like some reflect, has some sheen, maybe a little more satin, maybe a little more metallic. There's not a single matte in here, but this gives the most beautiful elevated looks. I'm glad I have this one. This is the one I probably should have picked up the first time and then maybe something else for a number 2, but I'm glad I have this. Next palette is one I'm trying to use more often. It's another Nabla Cutie palette. This one is the Platinum palette. But for me, what really calls me in here are the metallics. Oh my giddy aunt. I know, they're delicious. You do get 2 beautiful mattes in here, but these metallics, especially this one and this one, are the ones that I reach for so frequently. I kind of have to be going for a look when I wear this palette, because I tend to like things that are just a little bit more neutral. But when I put them on, I want to look like the Tin Man. I want to look like I'm wearing a literal metal in my eye. I'm sure you could like lightly diffuse them softly over the lid, get a barely there look with a little bit of a matte shadow underneath. That's not how I use them. I really enjoy this palette. And again, I just wish it was just a little bit thinner. They're a little chunky for my taste. You're gonna start seeing a lot more of these Petitfours. This is the Lapis palette. This came out for holiday 2021. I have used this so much. And I'll just tell you, I use these 3 shades all the time. This one I have been telling myself I need to use more often, because look at that. Look how remarkable that blue is. It's so pretty when it's sheared out. It's so pretty when it's built up. It's really, really fantastic. But that's the one that really stretches my comfort zone. And I feel like it's this blue that keeps it kind of lower on the list. The formula, amazing. The longevity, amazing. Every single Viseart palette I have, I don't have to wear eyeshadow primer with, and that's why I love it. But this one, like the garnet one, the one that has kind of the reds and the bronzes in it, I use a little bit less often than the rest of them, but it's still, oh, so favorite. And my favorite shade in here is kind of like this silver. It's almost like a powdery little hint of blue silver. Oh, it's so pretty, stunning, absolutely gorgeous. This next palette is one that I reach for when I want a really easy warm eye. This is one that I shared with my daughter and she loves it too. This is the Pumpkin Pie palette from Elf, another one of their bite-sized palettes. The metallics in here are insane, but I love that this one has 2 metallics and 2 mattes. I feel like these are kind of close to each other in tone. One's a little warmer, one's a little more golden, but having this kind of dark, cooler shade here really helps to balance it. And this warm one here, I love this one in the fall, but you can wear it anytime. I shared this one with my daughter who has blue eyes, and it made her blue eyes just pop. Absolutely love this. I've tried a few others of these, but the Rose Water and this Pumpkin Pie one are the ones I decided to keep in my collection. This one's so good. I told you there was a lot more metaphors in the lineup. I love this. Again, it's the 4 pans, it's the ease of use, it's the formulation, it's the super cute, super tiny packaging, and the outside of each one is a different color, so I know what I'm reaching for every time I look at them. I wish that certain other brands like Charlotte Tilbury, Wayne, Goss, had a little bit more distinction. I didn't have to flip it over and look at the label on the back. This one I know exactly what it is because of the color. But I like that the ribbon pull is the same, the magnetic closure is the same. This one's fantastic. These 2 greens here are the reason I love this palette. I was sure it was going to be kind of like this more khaki shade and this more kind of camel-y shade. No, it's these guys. These guys are the star of the show. I reach for them every single time I use this palette, and putting this in the inner corner is kind of a bold move for me because I tend to like more natural, neutral, and that just really screams like full color. But they're not so bright, they're not so rainbowy, candy colored that I don't feel like I can wear them well. I don't feel like they're wearing me. I feel like this is a great way for me to incorporate color into a look without it being too overwhelming for me. After getting this palette from Pat McGrath, this is the Venus in Fleur. I have been contemplating getting more of these quads. First of all, 4 shades, again, my perfect eyeshadow format, not too many, just enough. You're getting 1 matte in here, but this shade here, it goes from gold to pink to peach. It's so beautiful, and if you see it here, it looks more pinky here, more golden here. It's spectacular. The one thing that keeps me from doing it is you see all the sparkle fall out on the black. Sometimes that happens on my face. Now, using the artistry pen from Pat McGrath keeps that from happening, but if I'm in a rush and I don't remember where I put it and I'm quickly going, I end up with sparkle in parts of my face that I don't want, but that's again because I'm not a professional makeup artist. But with the right tools, this is absolutely stunning and such a fave. This is newer to my collection. This is the James Malloy and Beauty Pie Luxury Eyeshadow Palette. This is the one in gold. I have used all of these shades as one shadow look. There are 2 absolutely beautiful mattes in here and these 2 metallics. This one really looks rather white, but when you blend it out, it's very golden tone, but this makes the most beautiful one shadow look. I like using all 4 of them together. I like using one at a time. I like pairing them up. This is a fabulous palette and a really great quality alternative at just about $18 or $19 to one of those quads from Charlotte Tilbury. So far, there's only 3 of these. I think they're limited edition. I don't know how long they're gonna be around. I'm kind of curious about the rose gold one, but obviously your girl does not need any more small eyeshadow palettes. There's only 10 left, and these are the ones that I really struggle to put in order because they're just really good. All right, number 10 is the one that I'm wearing today. I have had this for a week and a half-ish now, 2 weeks. I've reached for it so much. It's so beautiful. It's exactly what I expected quality-wise from Viseart. By the way, this is the Framboise Petit Four, and it is so pretty, but like the metallics, they're pretty, but they don't have to be really heavy. I have them on very lightly today. I really love this. And this shade here, I wear this one and this one together all the time. Love this. This one here, I think the reason I didn't buy it initially is because I wasn't into pink eyeshadows in 2020. And something happened and like I have been bit with the pink or rose eyeshadow bug. Like, yes, love this one. And I knew that once I was like, I'm really in love with these tones, that I had to pick this up. I've been loving this. Number 9 is another rose toned eyeshadow. And this is one of my favorite formulas, one of my favorite brands. And it's this. This is the Divine Skies in Venetian Rose from M Cosmetics. So this one has 6 shades. And if you're looking at it, the metallics are gorgeous in here, but you have kind of some warmer neutrals, this really pretty rosy matte shade. But these metallics, they're so pretty. They're so pretty. And this is one where I'll like, you know, pair these two together, or I'll pair these two together, or I'll pair these two together. Sometimes I use them as duos. Sometimes I use them, you know, I have done looks with just the mattes in here. I have done looks with just the metallics in here. I feel like this is exactly what I'm looking for in an eyeshadow. I love the packaging. I love the fact that I can tell which one it is because I have more than one of these Divine Sky eyeshadow palettes based on the exterior of the packaging. It's one of my favorite things about it. This is at number 9. Number 8 is the one Pettifor. When I purchased it, I was like, why am I buying it? Why am I buying it? I've been intimidated by black eyeshadow my entire life. This is the Bouillon palette. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. But you know what I've been doing with this? It's a really pretty, very intense black. But what I've been doing with it is laying it down and then adding one of the golds over the top. And it is the most beautiful, most incredible look. It's enough of a smoky eye without being too much, because on my fair skin, if I get too smoky, if it gets too dark, it's just like all you see are these big black holes in my face. I love this palette. And if I decide not to use the black and all I'm using are these metallics, they're just amazing. I love this palette. This is one of my favorites and I'm so delighted by it. And every time I reach for it, I'm like, why was it I was worried about that black? It's the most versatile. You can lay it on lightly. You can build it up for intensity. It works well as a liner. It's just so versatile. Love this Bouillon. Number 7 is another Pettifor from Viseart. This is the Praline palette. This is the one that when they launched this, you know, quad collection of Pettifors, is like, that's the one I want. This is the one because you have some beautiful, you know, metallics in here and the brown is luxurious. I like that this one here is more of a satin. These two are more metallics. The matte in here is really pretty. I feel like the reason that this is not farther towards the top is because I've really fallen in love with rosy tones. A year and a half ago, I couldn't stop using this non-stop. And it's still beautiful. And every time I reach for it, I'm like, quality. Love it so much. At number 6 is a palette I've had forever. Such a long time. And it was my first foray into Natasha Denona. And it's this. This is the eyeshadow palette 5, meaning there are 5 pans in here. And this is the palette 02. So this is a very, I mean, rosy tones. But the taupe in here, the 2 taupe shades, like so the matte and this one here, oh my goodness. There's one matte and the rest of these are like the dreamiest metallics you've ever seen. When I picked this up, I didn't know what to do with this last shade here. Know what to do with her now. Love, love, love her so much, but I like that I've had this for so long and the quality is still impeccable. You still get a really gorgeous kind of buttery feel from these metallics. And when you blend them out, I mean, come on. Beautiful. So good. Number 6. I feel like the top 5 might be reordered based on my emotions and the day. So today, this is what they are. Number 5 is one of my faves from Goss. This is the Tourmaline palette. Again, blushy tones. You have beautiful metallics in here. I love everything about this, and I like that you can take it dark, but you can also really, you know, with these two shades here, have it be really light. This is the topper shade. I feel like out of all the toppers, this one is my least favorite. It's really pretty, but it's not my favorite. But I love the rest of the shades in here, and kind of like these richer tones. I mean, look at that. This kind of satiny shade here is everything I want in an eyeshadow, especially in the fall and winter. Love this so much. I really like the formula. I like the packaging. I like everything about it. Number 5. My number 4 eyeshadow palette is another one from M. This was my most used eyeshadow palette of 2021. This is a Divine Skies Magic Hour. Now, if you were to look at it, it's like the mirror is kind of messy. There is color everywhere around the edge. I abuse this palette so much, and for the longest time, before M had a highlight, I used to use this shade here as highlight every time I use this palette. It is absolutely stunning. I think the metallics in here are what really surprised me. These are the ones that made me really fall in love with this formula. The mattes, I mean, come on, they're no slouch. This is definitely more of a kind of peach leaning palette here, but I really love this. I have used this so much. There was one time I even used this as bronzer. Like, I try and do the most I can with this. I love this palette. It's number 4. It's one of my faves. This is my favorite out of all of the Pettifours that I have from Viseart. This is the Lilas palette. I picked this up in fall of 2020 before I had a hankering for cool eyeshadows, before I had a hankering for anything that wasn't a warm metallic. And this is what made me fall in love with cool eyeshadows. I've been reaching for a ton of cool eyeshadows recently and buying more of them. And this is why. This was kind of the thing that just like began it all. And oh, the metallics in here are absolutely wondrous. Like they're delicious. They're so good. The metallics right here are the reason I fell in love with this palette. This is the kind of the pinkier one, and the gray mattes. The mattes are really pretty, but they're so fair. Like when I swatch them on the back of my hand, can you just barely see the gray and the pink? Okay, I wear the lightest or second to lightest shade out of every foundation and every concealer I've ever tried. So just point of reference, if you're not as fair as me and these are hard to see, I feel like they build up a little bit better on the eye. They have a little bit more punch on the eye, but not much more. This is why I love this. And these shades, I mean, they are beautiful. And I think these two metallics would look pretty on so many people. I wish that these mattes had just a little bit more oomph to them, a little bit more depth. But I love this palette. And for me, I don't know. This could very easily be number 1. It's at number 3 right now, just where I'm sitting today. All right, number 2, I love this palette and I use it so much. When I bought it last summer, I used it for almost 2 months nonstop on my non-filming days. On my filming days, I'm like, you gotta use something else. You can't keep going back to this. It's the Wayne Goss Pearl palette. I feel like this one has a little bit more pigment and depth than this one, a little bit more range, but I'm worried that this might still just be a hair ashy on people with a richer skin tone. But I love it. The topper shade in here, I mean, it's magical. There is a satin shade in here that I love so much, and this kind of pinky, almost peachy shade here are so pretty. I love this palette. This is one that I wear for work all the time because it's easy. I mean, the formula is great. I don't need an eyeshadow primer with this. I feel like my top 10 eyeshadow palettes really are the sort that I don't need primer for. They kind of just take care of themselves. Love this so much at number 2. Now my number 1 palette, I haven't had that long. Picked it up in February, and it has turned into the one that I reach for almost like by default. I had to literally put it in a drawer because when it was living on my tabletop and I saw it all the time, it's all I reached for. It is so beautiful. This is another one from M Cosmetics. This is their Divine Skies, and this is the shade Rodin. This is from their Masterpiece collection. It's beautiful. It's easy. It's the lighter. They have 2 eyeshadow palettes that came out with their Masterpiece collection. This is the lighter of the 2, but this is the deepest shade in matte out of any of the ones that I have from M. And I love it because it works as liner. I can actually shove it into like the gaps in between my lashes if I don't want to take the time to pull out an actual eyeliner. It blends beautifully in the outer corner. It's just absolutely gorgeous. The metallics in here, I feel like 2 of these, the formula is similar, and one of these is a little bit different. This one here feels a little bit different to me, but I still can't stop reaching for it. This is one that I wear so much, so much. It's the one I have to hide from myself, or it'll be the only thing I use. Thank you so much for watching today. I'm curious, let me know, do you prefer a smaller eyeshadow palette? You know, something that's a little bit more manageable, something that's a little bit more curated? Or are you the sort of person that you love a 30 pan palette? You know, the more the merrier. Give me all the colors. Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you have a favorite quad or maybe 6-pan palette that you reach for all the time, or one that I haven't talked about here, please share it with me as well. Thanks so much. I'll see you again soon.